Hey everyone, it's Jenna, the Scream Queen here at the Animation Vault, and I am here with Rick Polo of the band Heck Vector. How are you tonight?
Good. How are you?
Good. Oh, now that it's not freezing up,
Much better now, right?
much better. So you have a new album coming out this week, the
Right.
28th or 29th?
The 28th,
The
yes.
28th, a Spider Thoughts. So, like, first of all, what all can you tell us about that album?
Okay. It is the second album from the band. Um, this one, the first album was kind of a more of a compilation of singles we did throughout 2020. This is the first like kind of fully realized conceptual album.
Okay. Are there any songs that have like really specific messages that like jump out that you can think of?
A lot of these songs really kind of deal with humanity. And just the way we've seen human behavior and human interactions in the last several years. The title "Spider Thoughts" is somewhat half of an homage to David Cronenberg and his particularly like Dead Ringers and Scanners, body horror, and the other half of it is when you think of a spider, you think of a creature that is very individualist, but also cannibalistic and, predatory to a point where it will kill its own kind to succeed. And a lot of a very kind of cold, a very beautiful animal, very capable of, I mean, creating, look at their webs, look how intricate, but also a very cannibalistic, individualist, and predatory beast, and sort of a look at humanity through the eyes of that.
Oh, that's interesting. Like what songs like really speak that message or like what am I trying to say? Like are there any stories that inspired some of the songs?
Um, I wasn't the primary lyricist on most of those, so
Or how about this?
okay.
Or how about like musically, you know how you go, how, well, you can go on a visual journey, like when you're creating music and whatnot. Like, did you visualize any of like a story, or did you have any visions pop up in your mind when you were creating some of these songs?
Yes, particularly ones that I had a heavy hand in. Particular song, "Pushing Through the Static." Um, that one kind of came about a dream I had where, I was trying to, how when you have a very like close nostalgic feeling, and but over time that memory kind of fades and kind of becomes something else, and it almost distorts much like static. And in this dream I was like shifting through like the static of almost television, back when you had channels to surf through with static. And in this dream, I was sort of shifting through static to try to come across memories like you'd shift through a television to come across, a channel. And just the idea of how time distorts things and how memory fades, it's depressing, but it's also very interesting. And looking back on the last several years, it's almost really easy to distort what things were like, what life was like before that, what life was like before the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and now that, in 2022, we've kind of jumped back into real life. It's different, it's distorted, it's confusing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, life is definitely weird, especially like when you sober up. it's a whole new world too. It's like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah, sobriety is a whole different type of lens as well. Yeah.
That it is, yes. Um, like so when you listened to the lyrics, how do you feel like your music like kind of gave the lyrics like brought the lyrics to life, I guess you could say.
Hmm. Um, well, depending on the song, it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg type deal. But to answer your question, I definitely think, this time around the music was a little bit more, it veered off in some different directions. The last batch of songs I think were very in the moment, very immediate. These were a little bit more drawn out and drew inspiration from, there was definitely a lot of immediacy on this record, but there's also just a lot of things that have been channeled and piled up. And yeah, the music just really kind of had a little bit more time to gestate and really give those lyrics a chance to shine, I think.
Okay. Yeah, and I haven't seen an album cover for it. Has
Okay.
or is there like I was looking through your social medias and everything, and is there one on
There
there?
is one, there is one, yes, and it will be checked streaming services as of right now tonight at midnight, and it'll be there.
Okay. Okay.
Midnight Eastern.
Okay. What all can you like? Did you come up with the album cover or like?
No, I that wasn't my end of the things, end of the creative process. So, but
Okay.
I will say the cover is it's in tune with a lot of stuff I like. It's simplistic, it's a little bit provocative, thought-provoking. You'll look at it and you'll think one thing immediately, but then you think on it a little bit and it will maybe make more sense once you've listened to the music. And I hope that, the goal is to keep you coming back to it and get something new out of it every spin.
Right. Now, was it done by Sam or was it done
Yeah.
by another? Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
And
They took care of the visual aspect of things. Yeah.
okay. All right. And like with the production and mixing and mastering, I mean, your last album was like completely self-released, same with your EP. So this one is also
This
self-released.
new one is also that way. Yes. Yep.
How do you feel like that, like, what am I trying to say? Like blanking out of my question. I just had it.
Oh, good.
It's been a long day. I've had like a bunch of interviews, so my brain is like,
You're
um,
fried.
yeah. Um, like being an artist that is completely like self-produced and self-mixed and everything. I mean, there's an aspect of just nothing but blood, sweat, and tears, and it kind of gives you like a different. I don't know if a leg up would per se would be the best terminology, like to the bands that are on labels and whatnot. But like, how do you feel like you really connect with the music, like the way, like just self-producing it rather than like having a label and having like somebody else mix and master it?
That's a pretty interesting question because I've been on the other side of that with my other projects currently going where, it's more of a band situation and, we enter a real studio with a real, with a producer and go from there. So with this one, with Heck Vector, there is there's a particularly intimate feel to that approach. because it's been through so many little hands and so many little features. I mean, it really it is what it is. It really is very pure to what it is. That's not to say in the future that could change. Um, if evolution takes its proper course, hopefully that will, there could be some more collaboration on that front. But I think for right now, it called for immediacy and intimacy.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is just directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. It's it is like there is like a certain level of passion you have to keep on doing that because there are some bands that just
Yeah,
they want to stay like unsigned rather than have somebody else's hands in it.
right. And that's not necessarily the goal to remain independent forever or to, go the other way. It's just sort of what how the chips fell at the moment. But I mean, absolutely in the future, I think, like again, like if it takes its proper course, would like to see it open up and what how it can elevate and still stay pretty true to its form, but have a little bit more of a backing. I mean, that's always great. It's just in today's age and day and age and the state of the music industry, it's pretty hard to, really be able to do that and really be able to like get your head above water as it is. So I mean, I think it just for right now, it's a little easier to just pump it straight out and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean the quality sounds amazing, just like it would if you
Thank
like
you.
like you had it. You can't even tell. So like, that's the beauty about
Oh,
today's
cool.
technology too, though, is like you don't necessarily have to have that. It's just you put the more effort into your music and art.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's a pretty crucial first step. I think artists nowadays, not to knock anyone, or insult, but I mean, if you're just a guitar player, or you're just a singer, and that's all you really do is just show up and do that, that's great, but I think it helps to have a working knowledge of how the recording if that's your goal. I mean, if your goal is to go out and, play covers at a bar and that, then that's fine too. That's cool. But I mean, if your goal is to, write and release music, I think having a working knowledge of how recording and mixing and general things like that work, will help you down the line because when you do work, in the bigger leagues, I mean, it's kind of easy to get pushed around or put in your corner. And as an artist, you have to speak up and make sure that you're represented how you're supposed to be. So I think having a multifaceted sort of palette these days is essential for to make any kind of statement or have any type of success.
Definitely. That's well said too. Um, your EP for doing fine in the intense. It's a mouthful. Um, that was released like a couple months ago, correct?
Beginning of September, if I'm not mistaken, end of
Okay.
August, early September in there.
Okay. Would you describe like the overall energy like you had while creating that EP?
Okay. So that one was just like really just a little tease of what was to come. Both all three of the songs that were featured on there were released prior. Doing Fine was the first single from this album in July. Super Spreader was a one-off single that we did back in like the summer of 2021. That was sort of our first step away from the first album cycle. And we actually did bring in somebody, an outsider, to mix that. And So we did our own mix of that for the EP. We basically put the what was going to be the album mix on that EP. And we took an old favorite and just recorded a very raw, like four on the floor live version of that, just to kind of encapsulate, give you a little taste of what's to come. And we also did it for Bandcamp Friday just because those are a really cool opportunity for artists, and a lot of times you could link up with charities with those. So
Yeah.
yeah, we just kind of did that as we saw an opportunity with a Bandcamp Friday, and album lingering. Here's a little taste.
Okay. Yeah, I gotta say Bandcamp is probably one of the best platforms for artists.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, it doesn't have the like the big ones, your Spotify and your Apple Music. But I mean, for independent artists and artists that are, I mean, anytime the band Failure puts something out on Bandcamp, I'm like, click, just because it's a cool way to interact with your fans and put
Yeah,
out like cool B-sides and interesting little covers and things like that. It's very direct streamline with the fans, and it's very supportive of smaller and independent artists that
yeah,
aren't making crap on Spotify, you
right,
know.
right. I know. Like some of these artists will show their royalty checks of like, and they've like had so many plays and stuff, but you wouldn't think of it with like a 3 cent royalty check.
Oh, I know. It's rough. I'm thinking one stream, and I think it has to be at least 80% of the song streamed. So and that could screw you. I mean, you could have a song that's 50 seconds long or one that's 10 minutes long, and but I think one stream equals like 1/5 of a penny.
It's crazy. It's like you think of these like some of the biggest artists in the world who have like even billions of streams, and like they're getting like a couple $1 million for a billion streams. Which I mean, yeah, that's a lot, but I mean, in retrospect, it's not. Like when
No,
you put it on like the level of especially independent artists, not at all.
no. It's really tough because I think streaming is, the number one way you can reach a wide audience in the age of the internet still. We haven't figured out anything a little bit more streamlined yet. Bandcamp and SoundCloud and that they come close, but it's still somewhat of a niche thing. Um, but yeah, it's really tough. I mean, it's great knowing that like when I do check the Spotify, like, oh, someone in the UK listened to it. Or see just the map of the United States where somebody's listening, or we got put on this playlist this week. But it's tough. You got to kind of rely on that, and it's not very reliable.
Yeah, it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a way. Like it's great for like people to discover other artists. At the same time, it's like they're not getting paid a lot. But I mean, that could bring the fans to the shows though. So
Right. And that's another thing too, is right now the bread and butter is in playing live and selling merch.
yeah,
So
definitely. That that's like the only way to survive right now. Well, one of them.
yeah. And touring is a whole other beast too. That's just, the odds are against you.
I know, especially with the gas prices right now, it's absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Logistics are tough. That's why sometimes I think smaller bursts are a little more feasible. I see a lot of bands, mid-size bands that are like just sticking to the West Coast or the East Coast, or like a cluster of 4 or 5 states. And you know, if you're not in that area, you kind of feel like, but I mean, logistically, it's the only way for them to do it. It's very hard for a band that's like out in LA right now to trek all the way across the United States.
Right, right. Or anywhere,
You-
like any band from anywhere for that matter.
Oh, it's extremely hard. And I mean, if you, and I'm not knocking like the state of Utah, but if you're, in the middle of Utah playing on a Tuesday night, it's tough out there. It's really tough.
Yes.
I think you get what I'm saying.
Yes, yes, definitely. Let's talk about the formation of Heck Vector. Like first, like how did you and Sam come together?
So, would have been around the summer of 2019. Um, I had met Sam through a mutual friend who worked on an EP with my other band, Baroque Monody. Back in 2018, they recorded and produced that EP. And Sam was a friend of theirs, and he was just hanging around the studio, and we kind of bonded. We both like Nine Inch Nails a lot and some of the same music. And about a year later, Baroque Monody had another batch of songs we wanted to put out as a single, as like a 7 inch. And I had contacted Sam. I said, "Hey, you're really into a lot of the stuff like we are. You seem like you'd have a good grasp on this. How would you feel about recording this?" And he was down. So in the studio, he showed me his initial demos and ideas for what was to become Heck Vector. And I was, oh man, I got to get in on this. This is awesome, because I love industrial music and I hadn't played it for about a decade at that point, like straight industrial. So we pretty much formed like in late 2019. It became realized and put out a few singles, booked a few shows, and then 2020 happened. So you could surmise what happened there. But because it was just the two of us, we were able to navigate that year. And the nature of the music being electronic, we were able to keep it going and keep writing and recording and releasing music throughout that year.
Okay. Yeah, how did the name Heck Vector come to fruition?
I think it just sounded cool. I wish there was like some cool mythos behind it, but truly it just sounded pretty cool, so kind of
Okay.
rolled with it.
Okay, cool. And what was it that like initially attracted you to wanting to play industrial music?
Well, if you really go back to like when I was a teenager, some of my, favorite artists were like Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, and then later I got really into like Ministry and Skinny Puppy and and then stuff like Joy Division and The Cure, alongside the other like rock and roll that I liked. But you know, um, as I dug deeper and started learning music and learning instruments, because I kind of began in punk and hardcore, and then I really wanted to just figure out how a keyboard works and figure out how like electronic beats are produced because it just always appealed to me. And I was like, okay, there's no reason why I'm not doing this. So I just slowly kind of taught myself how to navigate that. And my first real industrial band ran from about 2007 to 2009. We were called the Denial Stage, and we put out one record, did some touring, and I played bass and keys in that band. But it kind of ran its course, and I fell into other projects and just always missed that edge that industrial has. Because I mean, you don't come across industrial bands as often as you come across some other stuff. I don't think, but
Right. Yeah. Do you remember like one of the first concerts that you went to that you were just like, I have to be doing this? There's just no other way to it. I just have to.
oh yeah, absolutely. So when I was 12, this would have been the spring of the year 2000. I talked my dad into taking me to see Nine Inch Nails, and A Perfect Circle opened that show. And I mean, it was just mind blowing. Like I was only 12, so I didn't even know who Tool was at that time. So my introduction to like Maynard was A Perfect Circle. And yeah, that show was just like, oh my God. I mean, the visuals, the energy, and that was, one of the first shows that was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Those are all of my questions. So, do you have anything else you want to like, say about spider thoughts or any messages you want to get out to the world?
Well, it'll be released everywhere digitally on October 28th. And the future holds some interesting things. Sam will be taking a hiatus from the project, and I'm going to be kind of moving forward in a slightly different incarnation here in the coming weeks and months. So, and also rebooted my other band who hasn't played since, before the pandemic as well. So we'll be we'll be a busy little bee the next few weeks and months, but just looking forward to it and looking forward to see how people take to the record.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview again.
Anytime. This is awesome. Appreciate it and love all the work you do and keep it
Thank you so
going.
much. Yeah, I'll do my best to get this up like as soon as possible. The articles take longer than like my mind wants to get them out like right
Uh,
now. And then
I've
the
ran music blogs. I know. I know. It's just, yeah, I feel it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much again.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you have a wonderful rest of the evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.